90% of new projects fail, not because the people behind them were lazy or unlucky or stupid. They failed because of 5 specific predictable mistakes. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to avoid every single one of them. Here's what nobody tells you when you start a project. It's not the idea that kills it. Recent industry data shows the single biggest killer isn't a bad idea at all. It's building something the market never actually wanted. That one mistake accounts for more failures than running out of money, bad timing, and weak teams combined. And the second biggest killer? Scaling too soon, hiring, spending, and expanding before anyone has proven the thing actually works. Founders who avoid just these 2 traps already beat the majority of the people who start something new. So today, we're breaking down the 4 things that separate the projects that make it from the ones that quietly disappear. Before Airbnb became a $100 billion company, its founders couldn't get a single investor interested. So instead of building more, they did something almost every failed founder skips. They went out and tested the idea in the real world, renting out air mattresses in their own apartment to strangers, just to see if anyone would actually pay for it. That tiny, embarrassing experiment is the reason the company survived long enough to become what it is today. The lesson: don't spend 6 months building in silence. Spend 1 week finding out if anyone even wants what you're building. Talk to 10 real people before you write 10 lines of code, or record 10 videos, or order 10 units of inventory. Running out of money is still the #1 reason projects die, even in the age of AI and automation. Sarah Blakely built Spanx into a billion-dollar company, starting with $5,000 of her own savings. No investors, no loans, no outside money to burn. She kept costs brutally low until the product proved itself in the market. That's the pattern behind almost every project that survives its first 2 years. They spend like the money has to last twice as long as they think it will. If you're starting something right now, ask yourself, am I spending to look successful? Or am I spending to become successful? Those are 2 very different budgets. Netflix started as a DVD by mail company. When streaming technology became viable, they didn't cling to the old model out of comfort. They rebuilt the entire business around where the market was actually heading. That single pivot is the reason Netflix exists today instead of joining Blockbuster in the history books. Here's the nuance most people miss. Pivoting isn't about panicking every time something feels hard. It's about pivoting when the data tells you to, not when your motivation runs low. Projects that pivot strategically, once or twice, backed by real feedback, consistently outperform the ones that either never adapt or change direction every other week. The projects that survive almost always do fewer things better. Founders who try to serve everyone, launch every feature, and chase every opportunity at once are consistently the ones who burn out fastest and disappear first. Meanwhile, the ones who succeed usually looked almost boring from the outside. One product, one audience, refined obsessively for months before they ever expanded. If your project currently has 5 different directions, it could go, that's not a strength. That's the reason it might stall. Pick the one version of it that solves one problem for one specific person and get that right before you do anything else. So here's the 4 things that actually decide whether your project makes it. Validate before you build, protect your cash, pivot with data instead of panic, and focus on one thing before you chase 10. None of this requires luck. It requires discipline most people aren't willing to practice. If you're building something right now, a business, a channel, a side hustle, tell me in the comments what stage you're at. I read every single one. And if this helped you see your project differently, subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the exact framework investors use to decide whether an idea is worth funding.